Hello and welcome to the Educated Podcast, where we delve deeper into making you make the right decision for your child. And of course, my name is Lettie Kopi. Welcome to the show. Today, we are going to be having an amazing conversation for our guest today. Please do take this time to introduce yourself to our lovely viewers.
Thank you, Lettie. I'm Hannelie Raubenheimer, and I've been in education for over 20 years, and I absolutely love what I get to do on a daily basis.
If you could take me through one of your fondest memories of being an educator, what would it be?
An educator per se, not just this position.
Yeah.
I absolutely love working with children. I was a literature teacher, that is what I trained as, and a high school teacher. And literature really afforded me an opportunity to connect with students over difficult topics sometimes. I felt as a literature teacher that oftentimes people don't want to talk about difficult and uncomfortable topics. So they would write a poem or they would write a book. And then we as teachers, we were then labored with this task to actually get our younger students to talk about that. But that's what I really loved about it. Just getting to hear their voice and their opinion in a very safe space, and then be creative about it. So yeah, that's what I remember fondly of my teaching days.
And now that you've spoken about your authoritative figure in this beautiful school, I want you to maybe just give me. Oh, no, wait. Do you ever get a time where you do want to get back in the classroom? And if you did, what would be the first thing you teach in literature? First thing.
Poetry. I do go back into the classroom. I think in this position, your staff room becomes your classroom. So I've kind of learned to channel my energy towards that. I love still to present. So when I do open in the beginning and the end of the term to the entire staff, I do turn that into a bit of a lesson. And then I do engage with the students still. And then in my previous position as a principal, I went into the classroom again, and then I would bring a popcorn machine and I would pop some popcorn, and then I would ask them to experience that through their senses. So what does it smell like? What does it taste like? What do you see? What does it feel like? And then I teach them popcorn poetry. So that is when you take any page of writing and you then cross out words and only leave some. That's popcorn poetry. So it kind of pops all over the page. So you eliminate some of the words and you only keep those that are of meaning to you and creates a story to you. And I would probably like to do something like that again.
You know what? I'm going to take that and use it for my next game. At the playing games that we always play, so I'm gonna take that and use that, and I'm gonna see how everybody's gonna react to that, because I think it's one of those things where it's new, but it also brings you back to your childhood, and sometimes you just want to feel like kids again. And I'm speaking about being and feeling like a child, and just having an amazing childhood. This is a beautiful facility, and everybody knows it as GIS. What is GIS?
GIS, Lettie, is built on two pillars: academics and student well-being. Those are the two most important things that we drive at school. I'm sure we can talk a lot about academic results and the programs that we offer, but I want to go to the right-hand side just for a moment and speak to student well-being, because that is also what the students will remember most. Yes, it is important to us and to parents that students actually do get the results that will enable them to contribute to the world and their choice of career, but also we are forming individuals at our school, and for us to be able to do that, they need to feel safe. So I'm thinking of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, where that sense of belonging comes prior to anything else. And that is important to us, that our students have a sense of belonging, that they're safe, that this is their home of learning, their home away from home. And for that, we have actually specific structures in place. So we have a deputy of student well-being, and he has no workload. That is his work, is to make sure that our students' well-being is being looked after. And then we also have, in addition to the usual head of departments that every school has for academic purposes, we also have head of years in the high school or head of standards in the primary school. And they like the mom and dad of that age group that really looks after our children's well-being proactively. If there's any topics that we need to discuss, we do so proactively, or if there's anything that's trending, let's address that. And then the third role player here is we also have a residential educational psychologist who is with us every day, has an office here, and offers support to our parents, to our students, and our staff from that perspective.
I love how everybody has a role and it's family oriented. And it just doesn't feel like you're throwing kids into a place where they don't feel like they have to be themselves. And I love that when you mentioned all of that. And I think one thing that people, or I would love to know, is that, you've been here since 1993, and there's so many things that have evolved with GIS. And I'd love for us to go through, that beautiful process of the evolution of GIS. I absolutely want to get into that because I think that's where, for me as an upcoming mom, that's where I'd really love for us to get into.
Lettie, so to answer this is a broad question, so I'm going to start from the outside and work all the way to the inside. So the school was established in 1993, but in 2015, ADvTECH then acquired the school. ADvTECH is the leading provider of independent education or private education on the African continent. So that means they've got operations in South Africa, Botswana, and then we go up a little bit towards Kenya and also Ethiopia. And what is really a privilege to me to be part of ADvTECH is it's a company that is dedicated to education. So it's not a company that does something else and now, by the way, also have a couple of schools. This is what they do, or this is what we do, is that we are into education. And you can go to any of our schools in South Africa and any of our schools in Ethiopia, in Kenya, in Botswana, and they look and feel the same way. So the investment that is made in education in all of these countries are exactly the same, which is very exciting. So that is what happened in 2015. ADvTECH acquired the school, and then I think this exciting journey really started, and with the addition of the pre-prep or the preschool, brand new preschool. Initially, we looked at it and we thought we're just going to revamp it, but we couldn't help ourselves. The more as we got into it, we just started doing more and more, and eventually we just had a brand new preschool, which I really want you to come and visit and see for yourself, Lettie. Then also the additional block in the primary school, and then the additional block in the high school. So that's the outside. I think since acquisition, one can easily see, when you land with an aeroplane, you can see these two magnificent buildings from that high. Even if you just drive on Kubu Road, you can see that these three buildings with the preschool as well. But then I want to move a little bit closer into the classrooms. Our classrooms are equipped with, each teacher has a laptop, has a sound bar, and then what we also have is Wi-Fi across the school, and then there's specified venues. So we have a robotics lab, 2 of them, one for primary, one for high school. The preschool also has their own lab. It's an ICT lab / robotics lab. And then we have 10 ICT labs across the whole campus, which is really great for the size of our school. And then all the let's call it normal teaching venues that we have, all equipped with these educational equipment. What we also have then, Lettie, so I'm moving a little bit closer, is we also have VR headsets. So we use the VR headsets to really break down the walls of the classroom, so to speak. So with internet and with projectors and laptops, we can already bring the world inside of our classrooms, right? We can show our children what it looks like in different parts of the world, depending on what the lesson is about. But when we put on VR headsets, we can actually go into the world with our students. A good example of this would be, Lettie, when we do anatomy, or there is some parts of the body that we're discussing, digestive system or so, then putting on the VR headsets, you actually go into that part of the body and see as to how particles will move and how the organs work and all that, which I think is such a mind-blowing experience for our students, which if you have to contrast it to 1993 to 2026, that's just such an exciting journey for us as educators, but also for our students that they definitely benefit from.
I've never tried VR before, which is oddly so odd. And just to hear that you offer VR in the classroom, and not just, from the preschool level to, the higher the child gets, and it gives the child perspective, like you've said, to just become one with the environment. And I wanted to talk about the environment that you've actually mentioned. You know, when I came through the school, the first thing that I saw was a mom picking up, you know, their daughter, and she was happy. You know, normally when a child is from school, they are tired, they just want to get into the car, they just want to put their bag in the car and just walk off and be like, you know what, my day is over. But she still had energy. She still had energy, and I just wanted to get in and say, Mrs. R, what's going on here? And it brings me to my first day of school. I know, I remember my first day of school like it was yesterday. And what would a first day, or how would my feelings be as a parent as I walk through the gate of GIS on my first day, bringing my child to school? How would I feel as a parent just walking in through GIS?
Lettie, I'm going to quote one of the parents I spoke to the other day. It was a question I asked her in the preschool. I asked her, when you bring your child to school on the first day, it can be overwhelming, it can be emotional. So I'm curious, what was that day like for you as a parent? And she had a huge smile on her face, and she said, absolutely fantastic. And when I double clicked on it, I wanted to know what made it fantastic. She said it was the teachers, the support that she received from the teachers. And she highlighted her particular child's teacher, just that level of understanding what it takes of a parent to entrust their child to us, the dreams that they have for their children, wanting their children to be happy and develop and become the best versions of themselves. And our teachers really get that. And we offer that support on a day that might be difficult for you as a mom, having to step a little bit away, and then also for your child to step into an environment that they might not know as yet. But very quickly, I think it's because there's such a big social aspect, specifically in preschool. They become part of such a beautiful group of people doing things that they find interesting, that fosters curiosity and learning all at the same time, that it feels more natural than what it would have been not joining us.
I love natural. I think that's what anybody wants to feel, because you don't want to have the anxiety between flowing from home and flowing to school and from school back home. You know, that transition is always a bit daunting. And I would love for us to touch on that as the conversation goes on, because I think that's one of the core values in any parent. They just want their child to be comfortable, home, but still learn, right? I'd love to get into your role, which is the most important thing, because I think for any school and for any place that you'd want your child to go to, you definitely want the leadership to be home, like we've mentioned before. I want us to get into the school culture, because every school has its culture, and walking in through here, I got a sense of kids are orderly, but in a fun way, because they were out and about, but they respected, you know, as the parents are passing through, I could tell that, wow, okay, beautiful. And, you know, when I walked in here, the first thing that I saw was your smile. And I wanted to talk on your executive role here. You know, what culture are you instilling in GIS?
My favorite quotes on leadership is from Sheryl Sandberg. And it says something to the extent of leadership is important in the way that people that you work with must be better off as a result of your presence, and that must last long after you have left. In your absence, that should be your legacy that you leave behind. And that's something I live by, Lettie. My position, I see that as serving the people that I work with. For me, it is to work with them, identify challenges, something that might prevent you from being the best teacher that you can be, the best principal that you can be, and for us to brainstorm around how we can eradicate that challenge. How can we just make a way or do away with that challenge so that you can actually step into the best position for yourself. And then values are very important for us at GIS. I'm referring back to the two pillars, academics and then student well-being. And student well-being is built on our values. So it's generosity of spirit. It's important for us to give. You will see that we are often involved in community projects and donating to community members and so on. So it's important for us to give and be generous. Then there's also integrity, and this month we're actually celebrating Integrity Month. So I'm sure for all those on social media, they'll be able to see what our own kids had to say about integrity and what it means doing the right thing even though no one's watching. And then after that, it's excellence. I'm so grateful that that's what you've seen as you enter the gate. It's important for us that everything we do communicates excellence. And then the last one is growth. So excellence doesn't just happen overnight. It's something that we start with our preschool, and then we end in the high school and Form 4 when they write the IGCSE exams. That is our journey of excellence, helping our students to become the best versions of themselves. And then another thing that I think is unique to me being in this role, and something that I continuously share with my teams, is oftentimes, Lettie, I'm sure it was the same with you. When you were younger, people would ask you, what are you going to become when you're older? And I take issue with that, Lettie, because you don't have to become. You already are. And we're all created in such a unique way with our strengths and then our developmental areas. But for us in an educational setup, it's so important to help our students to identify their strengths, what it is that they can do uniquely to contribute. So for me, it's not a question of what do you want to become. It's about how do you want to contribute to the world? How do you want to contribute to Botswana? How would you like to contribute to Gaborone? And those are, I would say, the most important things for me in my position, to ensure that I communicate that and I instill that in the people I work alongside.
I'm already learning. I'm already like, oh, yeah, no, I need to instill that also, because I think we all grow up with an expectation of you knowing what you want to be and how to get it. But this is a new take, because things are changing, especially when it comes to talk about our emotional growth, our children growing up and knowing that they have to be confident wherever they walk into and who they talk to, and being able to go after their dreams. I absolutely love that. And that's one I'm going to take home for myself. Definitely. I already am. And that's the important thing when you are looking for, just a place to get your child to grow. And when we speak on growth, we speak on success. And success is a big attribute when going to a place that you want your child to actually grow up into what they want to become and who they want to become and why they want to become that. And I think that's also a very important aspect for you as you are growing this beautiful facility. The important thing for me is the success part. What does success look like to you, being in GIS, whether it's the student, whether it's the school, or whether it's the parent? I think a lot of the times we focus on, they are going to be this kind of a child. They're going to attain this, or they're going to be doing this. But success is measured in different forms. It could be even the parent, the school, and the student. And I wanted to touch on all of them so that even when I am learning how to, because we're still navigating parenthood, it also boils down to that. So I wanted to get into that.
I think to answer this one, I'm going to make use of an analogy of a coin. So there's two sides to a coin. One side of the coin is the data we work with. Lettie, we are incredibly data driven. We've got data from our little ones all the way to Form 4, who's achieved what, where do they need to develop, where are the areas where we need to reteach, and so on, from every subject, every age group, and so on. That also then translates to what we usually communicate to newspapers, our IGCSE results, our PSLE results, which we are very proud of. But that is just one side of the coin. The other side of the coin is then the student, him or herself. And I think it's any parent's dream to really put your child in an environment, first of all, where they will belong, where they can discover yourself. And we've touched on that, so I'm not going to repeat that part. But that is the basis of where they then can fulfill, let's say, their dreams, what they would like to do to contribute to the world. And those two, you can't really separate. You need to feel at home, you need to feel safe, and then you need to get that support, and you need to understand the work that you are being taught to build both sides of that coin to equal value at the end. So to answer that, I think in a different way, parents are investing these days in school fees. So it's not just something that you're spending anymore. You want a return on investment. because it can be quite expensive tuition. I think there is somebody who's done the calculation as to what it will cost you from beginning to end and so on, which can be a daunting picture. But we want parents to also see the value that you get from that. Investing in your child's well-being, investing in your child's academic career, and where that can take your child, because it's different for every child. It's different how they want to contribute to the world. But success for me would be results, excellent results, which will enable that individual student to go and contribute in the area or career of their choice. We don't want them to go and study something that they're not passionate about because that's the program they were granted entry to. We want them to be able to discover those strengths and to actually select those subjects that go along with that, do well in those subjects, graduate with IGCSE, get the opportunity to enroll in a university of your choice, in the program of your choice, so that you can get to that career of your choice. Then there's another program that I can speak to. We've implemented Yenza in Form 1, and that is a platform which actually tests you as a student, what is your strengths and what's your areas of development and what career choice might be an option for you. And then we use that to help our students choose their subjects. So it's not at random. It's not because this is what has been done in generations, that you have to become a certain thing or a certain occupation that you need to pursue, but really what is tailor-made to you. And that is what success looks like at GIS, being able to give that individual attention, knowing our students, knowing their dreams and helping them to achieve that.
I love that. Knowing the student, believing in them, and making sure that they are not pressurized to be something that they're not. Because now we've built the foundation for them to be able to identify what they want. And I also love how it incorporates the parent, because a lot of the times we always feel like we are sacrificing for our child, but knowing that it's a return on investment, it's a done deal. Is it not? It is a done deal. You know what? I remember my first day at school, daunting, but exciting. And I imagine that it could be like that for any other student, but this is GIS. We have VR, we have so many things to look forward to. So I want you to tell me, or just paint a picture for me, of what my first day would be like as a student on a Monday.
First day on a Monday. Yeah. Depending on your age, I'm going to guess you in primary school.
Yeah.
Let's say you are standard 7 and you are a PSLE student with us. On a Monday morning, it will be assembly. First, it's just a 15 to 20 minute assembly where all the standard 7s are in the hall, and then we have the head of here, Mr. Muzinda, and the principal, Mrs. Putti, who will address the group on anything that they feel is necessary. Maybe there's some loose ends that need tying, or anything that they need to be reminded of the week, or even celebrations. That'll happen in assembly on a Monday morning. And then after that, there's a 15-minute of a quiz that the standard 7s do. So we found that PSLE is quite a stressful year for students, and everything is serious and down to business. But to wake them up and to get them, just to get those juices flowing, problem solving and all that, there's a 15-minute math quiz. So they've taken some of the questions that they do struggle with, and they've just changed the format in which they ask them, and they quickly put them through a quiz for 15 minutes just to warm them up, and then you'll go to your first lesson. But to that point, Lettie, we actually ask our students how they feel about their experience at our school. So we do what we call an NPS, so that's your Net Promoter Score. We do that for parents as well as for our students, and there's a range of questions that we ask, but the most important question at the end is, will you recommend the school? And then we take our learnings from that. And if I can just from the top of my head remember why the students say that they enjoy our school is the learning environment. So they do mention the technology, but they also mention the qualifications of our teachers, how well qualified our teachers and knowledgeable our teachers are. And I'm specifically referring here to the Standard 7 group that said that in their PSLE year group, they enjoy the ADvLearn that they're doing. So ADvLearn is adaptive technology. So it's a platform that they use in the lab, and there's math problems that's then being shared. But what that does, Lettie, is it never gives you the answer. It will simplify the problem until you get it and you get it right. You can give the solution, and then it'll slowly build it up to the level at which you are supposed to be able to solve that math problem, and it can go beyond. So it doesn't mean that you have to stop at your PSLE level. So they've mentioned that as one of the contributing factors why they enjoy the school. It's fun. We move with the times. We don't only use chalkboards and so on. We keep up with what interests them, and especially math. That can be quite a mundane subject. And then they mentioned the quality of teachers that we have at our school.
You mentioned a lot about the quality of teachers. And not only that, I've noticed that whenever you speak on a specific topic which relates to a teacher or a certain role, you actually say the role and the person's name. That's mind-blowing, because normally if you are like especially in an executive role, you just like, no, the principal will come, or like the teacher would come, and but you literally do mention the name, which for me drives your values. It makes me realize that you really do take your values seriously, of integrity, of making sure that your students do feel at home. And speaking on that, I want us to, because I know that the educational landscape is changing each and every single day, and the most important thing that's always talked about is the emotional side of school. Because growing up, we were told, darling, wake up now and go to school. Like, we were never ever told, no, if you're not, what's bothering you at school, or anything of that. And normally, a lot of the times, whenever a child was struggling at school because of maybe learning disabilities, or just anxiety, or anything else which has to do with their emotion, it was brutally just chucked to the side. And hearing that, just how much you take into consideration about your children, and just how much each teacher is one-on-one with the students, and they know their students just as much as you know your teachers. How do you help students like that? Because a lot of the times we don't necessarily talk about that. It's normally shied away. It's a taboo. And I think now that a lot of parents are doing that research, they are getting into learning, what could make my child have this, or why they're struggling at school, and that before they actually go to the teacher, which I think for me is progressive, because education only starts with the parent at home, and then it flows to the school. And I'd love for us to touch base on that. How do you assist students who may be having an ability, or who just have anxiety, or anxious, or just scared of interacting with students? Because we do have cases like that.
I'm going to refer to the MPS again. Our parents, when asked what is the biggest contributor or contributing factor to their satisfaction with GIS, the answer was communication. So we tend to over-communicate a little bit, which I think is good. There can be, for a parent being in the working industry, we are busy. We spend a full day at work, and then whatever's left, we get to spend with our children. I think it's important for us, knowing the children, spending so much time with them, that we communicate whatever it is that we do know about them, or what needs to be shared with a parent. Then, from a system perspective, we have what we call a ticketing system. So if a parent has any concern, there's one email address that they can use. It goes to somebody at a central position, and that person then disseminates it to the correct person. That person is trained to know which person is the correct person to deal with each query. So that makes it easier for parents to communicate with us, to have a conversation with us, because you don't have to know exactly who it needs to go to, but you can share what your concern or your frustration is, and it will actually reach the correct person. Then another thing that we do differently, Lettie, is we do rotational teaching. So rotational teaching in the primary school and in the pre-prep or the preschool is when, let's say there's a teacher with 25 students in a class, then there's different activities that's being set out in the class. And a lot of them are, let's say, self-teaching in a way. It's something that a student can go on as an individual independently. And then one of the groups, let's say there's 5 groups, then one group will be with a teacher. And the teacher only has 5 students that she or he will be working with at that moment of time. So while the other students are busy with something else, he or she gets them to spend that time with a smaller group of students, then testing as to whether they've grasped it, or is there maybe a delay in learning, or is there a gap that we need to fill. And then once she's done with this group, they'll go on to the next station, and so she will actually, or he will actually, see the entire class in that, let's say, assessment or activity, but only 5 at a time, which really gives us that in-depth knowledge as to whether there may be anything that needs to be addressed. And then another tier would be the educational psychologist that I've already mentioned, the head of years. So if we do find that something looks like something is amiss, or there might be something that needs further inquiry, we also share that with a psychologist. The psychologist then has a session with a student, and then also with a parent. And then we give feedback like that. So there's I would say multiple ways of us addressing that, making sure that that we're on the same page, that we communicate well, that we see well as to what is happening in the class, and when there's support needed, where do we get that from?
And speaking on that, when we're talking about, the teachers one-on-one, and, having to know that students, like you've already mentioned, the thing which a lot of parents, and it's also my biggest anxiety, is knowing that a teacher can make or break a student. What makes a great GIS teacher? Yeah, I think what makes a great GIS teacher?
It starts with recruitment. Once we have a teacher here, I'll speak to all the things that's available to make sure that we're on the same page. But it really starts with recruitment. And a teacher at GIS must have an absolute love for children. That is non-negotiable. And then we'll go into what you know and how much you know and how long you've known that for, and so on. But that being passionate about children and passion for children is incredibly important. And then it's very different recruiting for preschool to high school. It's just completely different people that you're working with, and we're so keenly aware of that exact person that we need in that position. So we're very stringent on our recruitment processes. Then once our teachers are here, and there's a great number of long-standing staff members, we never claim to know it all. I always say collectively we know a lot, but nobody knows everything. So what we've done as part of ADvTECH, there's a platform called Sirius. And Sirius is a platform where there's a number of courses available to our teachers. They can do that in their free time, whenever they feel like they've got time to do that. That's the part of flexibility that I enjoy, but also on the topic that they need coaching or training on. It's difficult if you have to have all the teachers on one afternoon about one topic, because we're all individuals. I might not need training on that topic, so I'm going to zone out. Or I might actually face something in my personal life, or I'm thinking about a student that's struggling, and now I'm not really present in that moment. So is that kind of training really effective? So we moved away from that to an individual approach, where teachers can then access a course at the time where they feel they're in the right space of mind to absorb that, and on a topic that'll make that difference. And then it's not only academic. There are courses about classroom management, about the educational psychologist kind of space within education. So it's not only about academics and only results and so on. And I really think that affords our staff an opportunity to close any gap that they might feel as in teaching. Like I said, we definitely don't know everything. And I'm also proud to share, Lettie, that in this year, in 6 months, our staff have completed over 1,000 of those courses. So it means that there's a need for it. There's a hunger for that, to learn more and how to deal with this ever-evolving educational space that we are in. And then being part of ADvTECH, also the advantage is we've got a central academic team. It's called the Academic Center of Excellence, ACE, and they do a lot of the research on our behalf so that our teachers can focus on the teaching and learning that's happening in the classroom. So they do the research on best practice, on the curricula that we have within the school, and they'll share that with us. And it's also another body, let's say, to which we can hold ourselves accountable. They do come and do an audit to see as to whether our planning is in place and whether we are communicating with parents and so on, to make sure that we are delivering up to that standard in our school.
I'd love to hear a story on maybe from one of your teachers who shared with you on, one of a lasting impression that they've made on the students, or a teachable moment that they really admired and they really, really just always wanted to share that with everybody.
A lovely story to me, a heartwarming story, is the primary school principal, Mrs. Putti. She walked towards the soccer pitch, and one of the students took something out of his bag and he gave it to her, and it was a letter that was folded. And when she opened it up, it was such a beautifully written letter about how much he loves his principal and how much his fellow students love their principal. And she kept it and she framed it. And to this day, if you walk into her office, you'll see that it's a framed letter, because it meant something to her that this child connected with her, and that he spoke for so many others, saying that how well they connected with their principal, and just the love that they share in the school.
I have heard so many stories about GIS in terms of their robotics, in terms of them being, I think I would say, for me, you guys are definitely leading in that space. I absolutely love that. And I'm very shocked to actually hear from you that it actually starts at preschool. So it also ties into me saying that, education the landscape is changing every single day. And it's not just pressure to the school, but it's also pressure to the teachers who are actually teaching, and I would love to understand specifically on a one-on-one basis how technology has really transformed GIS, and what it means for GIS to be leading in that space.
To answer this, I'm going to start with ADvTECH, and I'm going to bring it home to you as a parent by the time you get home with your child after a day of work and after a day of having been at school for your child. So ADvTECH, I've mentioned the ACE team, the Academic Center of Excellence, and the research that they've done, and then the programs that they send on to us. I've also spoken to ADvLearn and how that is adaptive technology and math. Now, we have something similar for standard 1, 2, and 3, and looking to expand as of next year, where we use guided readers. So that's when we use the iPads, and it's also adaptive technology. So your child will be able to read a book at his or her level and get questions, comprehension questions based on that book at his or her level to answer. And then it will gradually build that up to the level where they should be for their standard and beyond. We never stop just where they should be. And what it means to you as a parent is you can access all of these books at home. You don't have to go to a library. Well, I still encourage that. I think a physical book myself, I love using physical books. But for this particular exercise, where we get that data of your child's reading ability, comprehension ability, that's what we use this program and this, let's say, online library for. So you can, at home, access this with your child, read as many books as you want. And we also do that at school. They access this at school. We've got a set of iPads that the teachers book out, and they use this guided readers on a weekly basis. So that is how I want to say we bring something home from something big. ADvTECH is big. It might seem far, GIS might seem big, but we bring it all the way home to the individual student, where we get that kind of data as to what their reading level and ability is, comprehension level and ability, and you also get to see that. You have then access to that at home.
My mouth is on the floor. I'm sure you've noticed, like, I was there, like, because I remember when we were, like, little, like, we would have those words on the book, and then we had to, like, say the words, say the words. So this, for me, really is, it pinpoints for me, as because I remember when I was growing up, I really struggled a little bit with reading, because I had a little tongue thing that was going on, so it was a bit difficult for me to keep up. Eventually, I outgrew it, obviously, but I always had anxiety. I had anxiety because there comes a time when you have to read in class, and that for me, it teaches a child to be able to keep up, but not with the pressure of everybody else. You know, you can still do this at home. You can still stand there with your iPad and just read. And you know, it also, I feel for me, it also encourages the child to be able to express themselves as they're reading, because also looking at the fact that children do a lot of the time now spend a lot of time on that, on the phones, on the iPads, and this for me just shows, like you're saying, it brings it home. And speaking on bringing it home now, and you know, tying the technology that you have, for me it seems extremely advanced in a good way, because now we are building, you know, a new generation, because our generation is our future. And now this is where we have to tap into the growing market. And one would wonder, you know, with all this technology and, you know, my child learning in, definitely there's a new way of learning, definitely new way of learning, and I absolutely love it. And how does it prepare the child for roles that don't exist right now? I mean, 10 years ago, I couldn't say I would be a graphic designer who specifically is into animation. You know, for me, this really, really opens up my mind to say, wow, like we're really preparing our kids for something we don't know. So how would you say this prepares a child for roles which don't exist?
We might not know where we're going, but we know where we come from. Our roots are incredibly important to us, our values, and I think that is something that you can carry into any position. I've spoken to an alumni the other day, and I asked her how did GIS actually help her to be the person that she is in her occupation. And she actually said it was the values that's carried her. She is a lawyer, and she was specifically quoting integrity, how that being a person of integrity is something that's incredibly important in her profession. So first of all, I would say it's important knowing our roots, and our roots would be that of our values. Then we talk about skills, Lettie. 21st century skills is one way to coin it, maybe, and thinking collaboration, communication, problem solving. And we use content as a vehicle to actually instill those kind of skills, so that by the time you get into a profession that might not exist now, you are able to use content, but together with your skills of communication, collaboration, problem solving, and so on, to fit that into something that we don't see yet, but can be used in that context, if that makes sense to you.
It does.
Because you need to be able, content, you can't just regurgitate anymore. You can't just memorize anymore. Anyone can do that. There's even machines that can do that these days. But it's how you apply that is important. So higher order thinking skills, if I can think of Bloom's taxonomy, so it's evaluation, analysis, and synthesis. Those are the three higher order thinking skills that we really focus on at GIS. So content, yes, we do that. There's still a place for many, let's say, teaching methods that even you have known in your childhood. It doesn't mean that we do away with the roots and everything that we've known, but there are certain things that we add to make sure that we really go into that sphere of higher order thinking skills. Our kids must be able to analyze, they must be able to evaluate, and then they can create, which is the highest order of thinking, because for you to create something, you must be able to carefully select all the puzzle pieces to build that picture. So those are the skills that we teach our children, so that by the time they get into a profession that might be new, they're able to take those puzzle pieces and build a career for themselves.
And I'd really love to know, or anyone would, specifically the parents, to see what expertise don't they see now that you would explain better.
The best way to answer that is to invite any parent to our experience day, if I can make use of that opportunity. So in August, we've got the 1st of August, we've got our experience day, and we do it exactly for that question, Lettie. It's difficult to explain something abstract. something that you as a parent might not have experienced, or something that sounds foreign, it just sounds strange, it's not how you were taught or an environment that you're used to. An experience day is really about that, bringing the parent and the student into our environment, and we actually have lessons which the students can attend and then get a sense of, okay, this is what the teachers are like, or this is our approach to teaching, oh, this is the technology that we're using, and these are the benefits of it, because as the teacher then speaks, so does the principal and the management or leadership team as well, sharing a lot about that. So it's a difficult thing for me to answer, because I don't know what you don't know. I think it's true to anybody. We don't know what we don't know, but that's why we are so comfortable in inviting people into our space. And you don't have to wait for Experience Day. We also have school tours. If you go on our website, you can book one there, or you can just phone us. And we actually have parents on our campus all the time, at a time that's suitable to them, while the school is ongoing, with one of the leadership team members, and we take you through the school and we speak through it, because that's the easiest way to address your questions, your concerns. What is it that you're still looking for in a school, or some of the answers that you've not received elsewhere? Maybe you can ask those questions here and we can help you with that.
And for a parent who right now is probably looking to enroll their Form 1 student, Form 1 child into school, is Experience Day open to them too?
Absolutely.
May I come?
Absolutely. So it's open for our internal students in Standard 7, because they also want to know what high school is like, right? And then also for external students, absolutely open to anybody.
And what would a day like that be like for me? Because, this would, at least for a student who's already enrolled here, they would know what to look forward to. But as a child who's coming from outside, wants to be GIS, what would that day be like?
In the beginning, it's important for us, that sense of belonging. You have to feel, okay, I'm seen, I'm heard, I'm here, I'm part of. So every student will get a passport. We just have this journey throughout the morning. So you'll get a passport, and that passport will tell you exactly where you need to go, because that's a fear of somebody who's new and not used to the environment, right? Is where must I go? Who must I talk to? And that passport will tell that student exactly where to go, and they'll be divided into groups, into small classes, and there'll be a teacher who will then walk with them from one class to another, and also a session with the principal and the leadership of that particular school with parents, some questions that they might ask, and then just sharing our heart. That is really, I think, the overall drive for us, is to invite people into our space so that they can see our hearts for education, passion, and just the unique way in which we tackle that.
I love that. And after Experience Day, I have my child who's been here for maybe 2 weeks, and she comes up to me and she's like, "Mommy, I'm not happy." What's the next step? Because I would be panicking as a parent. I wouldn't know what to do. So what would be the next step if my child came to me and was like, "I'm not happy"?
Lettie, I would hope that that's not the first time that you've heard that your child is unhappy, because we pride ourselves in communication and relationships. And I'm sure the first couple of days there will be communication with you and saying, "Lettie, little one is struggling a little bit. Let's try this, let's do that. Is there maybe a comfort toy that he or she can bring along?" Or that kind of conversation, because every child is unique. One solution might not be suitable for another, but I'm hoping that wouldn't be the first time that you've realized something is amiss. And then it happens. We work with people. I always say the school is a microcosm of the rest of the world. And we're going to see that there might be adjustment challenges, or there's conflict that arise between friends and so on. And for us, it's not to hide that and to pretend that, no, the child is happy, or no, they do get along. This is a place of learning, also emotional and social skills. So if that's the case for your little one, I'm sure there would have been plenty of conversations around how we can make it easier on her, so that we can figure out a solution for that particular child. Yeah.
I'm touched. Honestly, I am touched, because I'm actually almost shed a tear there, because whenever a child doesn't feel comfortable, it's always get on with it. Like, I'm paying, I am doing this, and you just need to appreciate. And I love how you are not just saying it's the parent's responsibility to just deal with the child at home. I love that you're stepping in and trying to assist the parent, especially now that we see a lot of families who are single parent households. It really helps the parent to know that they are not by themselves in a very difficult time, because that is a difficult time for any parent when your child isn't adjusting very well to an environment. I absolutely love that. And because of that, I want to talk about the discipline aspect. We have different disciplinary measures when we come from our homes, obviously our community, and obviously in a public space, and those are things which need to be taught in, obviously, in school, but also the school does have a discipline hierarchy and what they would use to just run the school in terms of discipline, teaching their kids discipline, because in order for your values to work, we need discipline, right? So what does discipline look like in GIS, and how would it help a child,
There's the proactive and the reactive parts of it. So I think often when we speak about discipline, people focus on the reactive part. So yes, we do have a code of conduct. We do take our children through disciplinary hearings when it's necessary. We've had some expulsions, unfortunately. We've had some suspensions and so on. Again, what is important in that part of the conversation is we are big on restorative action. So yes, there is the punishment part of it, but there is the restorative part where students are afforded an opportunity to reflect, to work through what it is that they may have done wrong. And I think here in the sense it's the behavior that we're after, the wrong choices that they've made. Because again, this is a learning space. People sometimes forget that we work with children. They are going to try and test the boundaries and so on, and it's for us to adjust that and help them see that that was the wrong choice. So that's the reactive part to it that we're quite firm on. But there's also the proactive parts on. We know children, we're in the business of educating children, so we know the different phases that they go through, adolescence and so on, and we try to really equip them with the skills that they need to understand themselves in a difficult time. It's quite difficult. I'm sure all of us can remember when we were teenagers how confusing that was to have to make all these decisions and go through life not knowing who you are. I think if I had to go back to adolescence now knowing who I am, it would have been a lot easier. But it can't work like that. It's a bit of a chicken egg situation, because that is the time where you discover yourself. And that's the proactive part where we really offer support to our students in figuring out who they are, what are healthy choices, what are healthy boundaries, and what could be the possible consequences of not adhering to that. So our team, I did touch on earlier, we've got the Deputy of Pastoral Care or Student Wellbeing, that's Kagiso Mfa, and then we have our psychologist, Kitu Metsi, and then we have the various heads of years and standards in the high school, in the primary school as well, which are like the parents. And collectively, that would be the backbone of the structure, really, the people who take care of the content then that we'll share. Yeah. Again, we deal with a lot of these disciplinary matters as and when they arise. So instead of just sweeping it under the rug, we do phone parents to come to school so that we can, as a community, solve this and say, listen, this is the problem that we've picked up on. How can we resolve this matter, instead of just being punitive and making the children feel that they're constantly in trouble?
To be honest with you, even when I asked you that question, I did not think about the proactive and the reactive part. To be honest with you, I was reactive part, and it goes to show just how much you have put into the system, which works so well and ties so well together. And as a parent, you'd wonder, okay, fine, I understand, maybe we've had these conversations, and maybe they feel like they are not being heard, or maybe they are not being understood. How does a parent, or how would a parent make sure that they feel heard? Because that's the important part about, now, without the student, this is me and you, and this is where we meet each other halfway, right? So how do I make sure as a parent that I am heard by you, and we understand each other, and we can resolve any problem, whether it's happy or good? Because I think most of the time we're like, oh no, this is definitely a bad. No, both the good and the bad. Yeah.
Open door policy. Our parents are welcome to come and see us at any time. Our parents are professionals for the most part, working people with their own busy schedules, and I can appreciate that they're not able to maybe come at a time where they're supposed to be at work, or they're quickly here for drop-off and they can talk to any of us on the management or leadership team. So that's my recommendation, and that is also my lived experience. And then we also escalate. So it usually starts, if there's something that a parent is not happy about, it starts with a class teacher to the HOS or the head of standard or the head of department, depending on whether it's academic or social emotional. From there, it will go to the deputy to principal to me. It doesn't have to take that long. I'm just saying that's how many people are committed to making sure that you have a good experience at our school, because we understand parents are invested in their children. We understand that you are working hard. We understand that you might have limited time or limited understanding of the situation, and we're very happy to spend that time with you, whichever level is required to unpack that.
I love that. And beyond academics, because now we have the discipline, we've grown our child, our baby pot, it's growing, our flowers growing and blooming. Beyond academics, what are we preparing our child for beyond academics, and obviously beyond the school, the work environment? What else are we developing our child into?
To sum it up, responsible and competent citizens. And it doesn't mean only citizens of Botswana, citizens of the world. Again, I'm going to mention how important values are here. You can be incredibly smart, but if you don't have that values, if you don't have compassion, if you don't have an understanding of the world around you, it's not going to serve you very well. It's important that we send out students who have integrity and have that love for growth and excellence and generosity of spirit. But then again, also to my previous point of contribution, we want our students to be able to contribute to the world, to Botswana, to Gaborone, their home village, remembering where their roots are, and whatever challenge there is in the world, that they will be the ones to come with an answer, solution, hope, to the light of the world.
I love that. And before we actually wrap up our conversation, my child interacts with everyone, any child from any family, from any background. I want to know how you incorporate that in the school.
I'm going to ask you a question. So I'm going to flip the classroom. How many countries, Lettie, do you think our students come from? So how many countries are represented at GIS?
Oh my word.
Take a guess.
I would say SADC. Yeah, definitely SADC, and a bit of Europe. Yeah.
32 countries.
Wait, what?
32 countries. Our students come from 32 different countries, and our teachers from 8 different countries. So it's really a multicultural team that we have here. And then annually we have a multicultural day where each culture then has an opportunity to showcase what it is that's dear to them, whether it be food or dance or song, and what a celebration that is. We then walk around the soccer pitch, each country with their flag, and they can group together, or they can be just a mix and walk freely. And then it's interesting to see the diverse colors of flags and just the diversity in terms of culture that comes to the fore. So we celebrate that annually, and we also have a program called RDI. It's Respect, Diversity and Inclusion. So there's a specific time dedicated per week for all of our, from the little ones to the high school, and we teach what does it mean to have respect, what does it mean to be diverse, and what does it mean to include others, so that's also a skill that we send them out into the world.
I love that. And if you could sit across a parent right now, what would you say to the parent in terms of their concerns? What would you want to put to rest?
Thank you. I would like to say thank you to a parent for entrusting their child to us. It's maybe, I don't like the word possession, but maybe your most valuable possession, or gift rather, that's been given to you, that you entrust to us, to be safe and to be nurtured. So I would first say thank you, and then I would say I understand. I understand if there's something that bothers you. I'm also a parent, and I can understand if there's a concern. And don't keep it to yourself. Don't sit with that worry. Don't not sleep at night, or talk to other people. Talk to us. Share that concern. We're happy to unpack that because we love your child. We honestly do.
And for a parent who, after watching this conversation, wants something to remember, what would you want them to remember after this conversation?
My honest experiences after, or besides having had to decide who I will spend the rest of my life with, selecting a school for my child was one of the most difficult decisions that I've had to make, because it's important. I just put such a high value on that. And I really wish, to every parent, this is my wish, that at GIS we can make it a little bit easier on you to make that choice, the right choice, in sending your child to our school.
Oh, I've been more than educated. First of all, I'm going to be playing popcorn. That's the first thing I'm going to be doing. And I'm very much, my mind is honestly, it's on race mode. I am very much excited to especially come see the VR. I'm excited about the VR, the VR experience. And I would like to say thank you so much for having this conversation with us. And as a parent, I know that I'm looking forward to interacting more with GIS and making sure that I have made the right decision when it comes to GIS. Any last words before we wrap up?
Thank you for the opportunity to share the heart of the school. I love doing that. I'm very passionate about GIS, and there's many more people like me on campus. So thank you for that opportunity, Lettie.
And to everybody watching, thank you so much for tuning in with us on The Educated Podcast. My name is Lettie Kopi. Thank you so much.